Welcome everyone to this training on being organized for recruiting. I'm Matt Frankum. I've been at the company for 14 years now. And anyway, I've found that over the years, it's been a situation where the more that I am organized and deliberate and intentional about what I'm doing, the better off my recruiting process is. So there was a time at Vivint when I was not as engaged in recruiting as I am now. And it's funny, the moment I flipped the switch is the moment that my results skyrocketed. I considered the preseason as an off season, not a preseason. And I got some really cool traveling in. I think my wife and I went to like 40 different countries at the time. There'd seriously be 4 months consecutive that I was out of the country, which is really fun. But the thing is, I had to go rebuild every single year. Luckily, I was able to recruit enough to have like a team, but I didn't have enough momentum in the swing of things to be able to go and build a region. When I really made a deliberate and conscious effort on my recruiting process, that's the moment where things just flipped around. And I started to recruit through people. Recruit someone, I would work with them and help them to build, and help them to go recruit. And when they could be doing that effectively, then they would go help others to do it. True leaders create leaders who create leaders. So if you can focus on a system that you can just plug people into, that's where you're going to really see the results you want to have. So recruiting and development, growth at Vivint, it's all about effort. You put in the effort, that's a sacred thing. That's going to be what gives you the results that you're looking for. Being planned out, being organized, it's so key to this. But the question is, how do we be organized? How do we have a system in place, and what tools and resources are available to us? Let's talk about some of them. So whenever I have a recruiting appointment scheduled, I always want to make sure that I'm texting the individual or calling them, confirming it the morning of, the night before. You don't want to just show up to events, recruiting meetings and that where people aren't going to be there. You're just wasting time and it's going to cause frustration on your part. Set reminders, use the reminders tool in your iPhone. Make sure you have a flow and a system. So when you sit down with someone, you recognize why this person would be good at this job, why you want them to work on your team. And after the meeting, be sure to shoot them a text. It could be that evening, but just kind of another touch. Effective recruiting is all about touches. How many touches can you have on an individual? How many times can you connect with them? One thing that I've really emphasized in my career is what I call the 7-minute phone call. You can do a 7-minute phone call with the busiest individuals out there. Doesn't matter how busy they are, anyone can afford 7 minutes. The reason why I like 7 minutes is because that's the right amount of time that lets you understand their situation, where they're at, how they're feeling that day. It gives you some direction, but it also lets you give them a little training, a little insight on the next step. When they realize that you're reaching out to them to help train them and help them do something better, they realize that you care about them. And people want to run with people that care about them. Another thing you can do is set up a Calendly. You just go on and you sync up your calendar so the individuals can go on there and do different recruiting schedules with, according to your schedule. You're trying to find a time that's going to work for them, work for you, so you're not have to go back and forth. So if they just click the link, they can, it pops right up on your schedule. This also works as a manager who has other people that are recruiting as well that you need to be involved with. They can just put themselves on your calendar and then, sync right in, so you guys are going to have recruiting meetings that everyone knows the time and it works out. I'd also make sure that you sync in your Vivint email. Use your Vivint emails, guys. This has kind of been a frustrating thing when people try to do it outside of that. It works really well with your Teams meetings that you can set up with your calendar on the iPhone. It's just smooth when everyone has everything plugged in on the Vivint email. There will be times where you have this recruiting pipeline and you're like, who have I been reaching out to? Who have I talked to? You actually have the app, the Vivint app that's called Pipeline. You can look through that and see where people are at in the process. You can reach out to One Stop, you can reach out to your RC. The reality is you need some sort of system where you can just plug and play. So what I like to do is have a progress tracker for recruiting. Make a Google spreadsheet that you can have a list of all the recruits, everyone that's potential recruits, list of 100 recruits. I mean, you have so much on the spreadsheet But then like, who's your hot list? Like, who's the top 10 people that you're gonna work on reaching out to right now? You put those at the top of the list, you focus on them, and then you have little columns that let you organize the information. When did you talk to them last? Put the date. How did you contact them? Was it text? Was it DM? Was it a call? What is it? And then what did you talk about in there? So that way, when you're doing a call out of the blue, one of these 7-minute phone calls or otherwise, it's not redundant. You're not going over stuff you've already gone through, because eventually you're gonna have a recruiting pipeline that is so big where it's hard to keep track of it all. And then it's all about organization. The reality is the most important part of the call is gauging where they're at. What's their next step? What do you as their leader need to be focusing on? How can you assign a friend or someone else to be working with that individual as well to help them progress through this process? I mean, to recruit, it's like raising a child. It takes a village, right? Same with a recruit. It takes a village, it takes your whole team. But the more touches, the more contact, the more camaraderie that you have as a group to go help those recruits, that's what's really gonna expand it. Eventually, you're gonna get them to a position where they're recruiting, and you'll see that they become a lot more solid. If they have buddies that are coming out with them too, they're gonna be solidified. They're gonna love this. They're gonna be bought in. And sometimes they're gonna feel like, hey, I need to do this because I have people relying on me. And that's a big part of this. Okay, so my challenge for you is be very deliberate about your system. To do that, you need to write it out. Actually physically write it down, send it to your leader, get some direct feedback. And when you get to the next levels, when you're a regional manager, senior regional manager, partner, to just funnel recruits through your pipeline. Know your system, write that down, take some time and map it out. So decide to do this today. Be very intentional, be very deliberate about your system. It's basically, think of an elevator where they're just or an escalator where they're just kind of moving along the process. You need to get new recruits at the beginning, so they're constantly moving. Get people signed, getting sales there at the top. But for you, make sure that you have your system locked in so you know exactly what the next step is for each recruit, because they don't know where they're gonna go. You're the one that needs to know that, and then make sure you plug and play.